The Civilians is a really fascinating, in my opinion, theater company which uses the investigation of real life as the creative jump-off point.
The Civilians hire actors. The actors then go out into the community and conduct interviews. With those interviews, they come back to the space and verbatim just sort of reenact that interview.
Every time I look at the block, at the community center, I say it don't look like it did from when I was young.
In my own words, Brooklyn at Eye Level is an exploration of the issues surrounding the Atlantic Yards development proposal.
I've been a community activist for about 30 years. Okay, well, I'm the person who started this entire war against Mr. Ratner. And I just happened to start it at the end of July 2003.
I interviewed, I think, about 15 or 20 community activists, urban planners, urban planning legal consultants, and bloggers, and all kinds of people.
What was sort of what I enjoy about the Civilians Project is that there's no sort of slant. They're not coming at it from sort of a position, from any other position than sort of like, here's something that's really interesting, let's dissect it from every possible way. So it takes a very journalistic approach in trying to examine the layers of complexity around a specific issue.
If they put that stadium there, that's okay. I have no problem, because I'll come out my house, go across the street, go watch a game live. That's no problem. But what about the seniors in the building? The elders? Come on now.
Nowhere else in the United States are so many people served by so little media, but we do have a lot of bloggers.
They were talking about what they had in store for Brooklyn, the Nets arena, housing, open space, but the most important thing for me was jobs.
Las compañías grandes son las primeras que se enteran mayormente lo que va a suceder por aquí. El pobre no lo sabe hasta 10 años después.
Eminent domain says, I have determined that what I am going to build on this piece of land is better for this community than what you currently have there. So you must sell it to me, and if you don't sell it to me, we will take it from you at whatever price we determine you should get.
I was not at all surprised by the passion of the activists. I was surprised by the intense sorrow over the racial tension surrounding the Atlantic Yards debate. Because I think many people have sort of contextualized it as, we're poor, we need jobs and housing. And then, please preserve my bucolic neighborhood. And I think the story is much more complex on both sides, and I think both sides have really lost compassion for each other and for the values that are equally valid in their own ways.
It was like he was ticking off the community. Okay, we've got the Hispanics, the blacks, the church blacks, we'll get one of this, one of that, and we'll make them grateful.
It really began to be polarized. Where us and folks like us were basically being called ignorant niggas who were so grateful for any white man's crumbs. And we didn't have brains enough to understand that making an agreement, because if we were smart enough and we were intelligent enough, then we would be with develop, don't destroy folks, because they knew what was really going on. And we just had to be bought off, because there was no way that we could actually sit down and make a landmark agreement. Mr. Caldwell said talk to you, but I don't talk to folks about this shit anymore, because I've been talking about it for 3 years.
You have people on stage who will never be in the same room with each other, are sworn enemies of each other. But this is a wonderful opportunity to bring the ideas of those two sort of diverging groups together on stage in ways that, unfortunately, because of the passions that surround this, just is not feasible, And that's something that's really beautiful about the Civilians process, is it really allows for that in a really dynamic way.
All these people from the community, from both sides, are coming in and witnessing it and acknowledging the humanity and seeing the different sides together. They may never change their minds. They may never even increase the level of nuance in their own perspective on it. But that energy in that room was absolutely exhilarating.
The average individual feels absolutely excluded from any sort of city planning process. And a lot of the strife comes from the very fact that people feel excluded. So when you approach them and say, hey, I want to know what you think of your neighborhood. I mean, this is New York City, and especially Brooklyn, you know what I'm saying? So everyone has an opinion.
They loved it. I don't think I interviewed a single person who didn't find it immensely validating and meaningful.
One of the things that a lot of urban planners and the planning community, a lot of things they said is, well, first thing some people said is that this couldn't be done, that people wouldn't talk to you about this. Another thing they said is that Atlantic Yards is only Atlantic Yards, which, sure, it's a project that happens in a very specific place. It's a project that's happening in a specific sort of nexus that's always been a center of commerce, but at the base of it, it's people and it's neighborhoods. So it would be really interesting to see other people in other boroughs and other communities interact with this material and see how it relates to them and their experience. So that's what I'm excited to see is how this will translate to the larger conversation of communities and community change.